Maryland basketball is back on track.
You are Locked On Terps, your daily podcast on the Maryland Terps, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What's up, everyone? I'm Trey Moore, host of Locked On Terps, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So thank you for making us part of your day. And I'm also doing work at InsideBlackandGold.net. So make sure you guys head over to InsideBlackandGold.net for all your latest Terps news. And today's episode is brought to you by the Game Time app. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code Locked On College for $20 off your first purchase. Maryland basketball is back on track, and I think that they have found some of their rhythm after getting a much-needed 2-game win streak against UCLA and Minnesota. I think Maryland basketball has started to find it again, and I think we were all nervous after the road trip out west, losing to Washington. Losing to a really good Oregon team that is a borderline top 15, top 10 team in the country right now. I think we were all concerned. I think we were more concerned with the Washington loss because we knew Washington wasn't supposed to be that great this year. We thought Washington was a team that we absolutely should be able to handle, a team that Maryland should be better than. But we rebounded against Minnesota and UCLA, and UCLA wins a good win. UCLA they're starting to kind of go downhill, but UCLA definitely has some good wins this year. They were ranked 22 and we beat them. And they've beaten some really good teams this year. They've beaten Gonzaga, who's a top team in the country. They've beaten Arizona, who's pretty good. They beat the Oregon team that we lost to. They beat Washington. So they have a tournament resume for sure, and they've started to slip up recently. They just lost to Rutgers last night. But UCLA is a big win for the Terps. Definitely another quality win that I think Maryland needed on their schedule. And then the Minnesota game last night, which I want to talk about today, it really it's another win that you just couldn't drop. It's not going to do a ton for your resume. I'm not going to lie to you guys. It's not going to do a ton, but it definitely helps winning that game. It would definitely hurt a lot if that's a loss that you would take. That's just one that you just can't have. And it's a spot where you would have been 1-4 in Big Ten play against a team that you were 15-point favorites against. And instead, Maryland's now 2-3 in Big Ten play, and you're right there sitting in the middle of the pack. And then, of course, you have a huge week of basketball. Of course, the Minnesota game last night, but you have another game against Northwestern on Thursday. Then you have another game on Sunday. So you're playing a lot of games, but this is an important stretch. And I think Maryland basketball is absolutely right back on track. We're still very I don't want to say solidified, but we're definitely right in the tournament. Obviously I want to see us get more wins so we can improve where we are at, but I think we're in a really solid spot in terms of tournament position. In terms of the Big Ten position, we've played a lot of the top teams in the Big Ten. We still have some really good teams to go. Like we still have an Illinois type of team. We still have a Michigan type of team that looks really good that some people think maybe is the best team in the Big Ten. There's still a lot more games to go, but Maryland basketball is clearly back on track. So credit to Kevin Willard for allowing us to win 2 games straight and allowing us specifically the UCLA win was a while ago, but the Minnesota win last night, that was one that tested you. And you're going to have some of these weird games. You're not going to blow out everybody you're supposed to blow out. And I think early on in the season, we got used to if we were supposed to beat a team by 10, we'd beat them by 20. If we were supposed to beat a team by 20, we'd beat them by 30. But that's not what college basketball is. And this Minnesota team fought last night. They did a lot of good things. They probably played one of their better games on the year, but realistically, Minnesota's 8-9 for a reason, 0-6 in conference for a reason. They are not very good. There was a reason Maryland was ahead of them and was huge favorites in that game against Minnesota. But that's the cool thing about college basketball that I really enjoy, I really like about it is that any game can be close because of how a team shoots the ball. It's not like that in football. If you match up Georgia against some lower level opponent or take Ohio State, whom possibly could about to win the national championship, and play them against some like really low opponent or a bottom Big Ten team, it's really tough for them to be able to stay in the game. Sure, you see upsets happen, but basketball, it's different. If you shoot the ball well and you have guys that knock down shots, then you can stay in the game. And Minnesota was doing that last night. And that's part of the reason why I think Maryland has found their rhythm, because they found a way to win a game that was similar. I think it was similar to the Washington game. Washington came out, played better than what Maryland expected, but Maryland wasn't able to squeak it out against Washington. Minnesota came out, played a lot better than what I expected, what a lot of people expected, kept the game close for a majority of the game. I think they had a 3-point lead at halftime. They were up 35-32. They were doing a lot of things that a Minnesota team hasn't done so far this year. And so they were playing at a really high level. When you look at it, they shot 47% from three. It's hard to beat a team when they shoot 47% from three. They made a lot of free throws, 19 of 23 from the free throw line. So they weren't just allowing opportunities to slip away from them. So they outshot us from the 3-point line. We shot 31% from three compared to their 47% from three. We shot 79% from the free throw line compared to their 82%. They got 8 offensive rebounds compared to our 6 overall offensive rebounds. They out-rebounded us on the defensive side of things as well. And then they did a lot of things well. And I think what kept Maryland in the game was the turnovers. Maryland forced Minnesota to 16 turnovers compared to Maryland only turning it over 10 times. And that's a game where you just have to figure out a way to win. Is Minnesota going to shoot 47% from three the rest of their games? No. They'd be better than 8 and 9 if they were able to do that. Are they going to try and shoot the ball better? Yes. So I think that it's a Minnesota team that they're not that good, but that's what I'm talking about. You never know when a team can just shoot the ball well, and all of a sudden, really tough team to beat overall. And I think that's what the Minnesota Golfers showed up as, and did some really high-level things. They shot the ball well, and I credit Maryland to finding their rhythm. I think I said Maryland's 2-3 in Big Ten conference play. I meant they're 3-3 now, with a chance to get to 4-3 on conference against Northwestern, because they were 1-3 after the Washington and Oregon loss, and then they won 2 in a row. That's my bad. 3-3 on conference play, but I do think we found our rhythm. We beat UCLA by a good amount. The UCLA win was weird. It was. I'm not going to lie to you guys. It was a weird type of win, and I don't know exactly how to justify it, because it feels like a lot of the attention was on UCLA because of their head coach. He's got to get it together. He's a little bit crazy. He's definitely got to hone it in a little bit in terms of the comments he said before the game, then him getting kicked out during the game. And I think that Julian Reese said in his press conference, that was really a big difference in the game. It was back and forth for a lot of the game. They were able to stay in it. But I thought Maryland was better than UCLA. And that just kind of shows how good this Maryland team can be, because UCLA's had some big wins. They've been ranked in the top 25, and I think Maryland's clearly better than that UCLA team. Even with their coach getting kicked out and all those things, I still think head-to-head Maryland's the better team. But getting 2 wins in a row, getting a chance to get 3 Big Ten wins in a row is a really good spot to be. And I think it proves that Maryland has found their rhythm a little bit, as well as I want to mention something real quick before we move on. Some of these other wins that Maryland had earlier on have actually started to gain some weight. Villanova has been doing some really good things. I know they just took a bad loss to St. John's, but they beat UConn. They beat DePaul. They beat Butler. They beat Seton Hall. They beat Cincinnati, who's been ranked at one point this year. They've started to get some wins, and they're starting to look more and more like a tournament team, which I think improves Maryland's resume. And then Ohio State, if you guys remember, that was our first Big Ten win. they've also had some really good wins where they beat Minnesota. They've beaten Kentucky, who's a top team in the country. They crushed Rutgers, and Ohio State has continued to make themselves look like a decent Big Ten opponent too. So some of our wins are picking up some traction too, which is really important. So our resume is actually getting better. As without even winning more games. I know we beat UCLA. I know we just beat Minnesota, but even without those wins, our resume continues to get better because some of those teams that we beat are actually looking like better teams than what we originally thought, which I think is really important. But I do think Maryland is in a really good spot. I think we're doing a lot of things well, and I just want to see us continue to get better, to continue to improve. But I do think this Terps team is back in their rhythm that we saw earlier on in the season. Maryland football gets a huge portal pickup. We'll talk about that next. Attending the 12-team college football playoff game is an incredible experience that brings fans together like never before. I remember the excitement of past playoff games and can't wait to make new memories with the updated format and extra teams involved. Game Time has new features called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets for the events even easier. It filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Recently, I used Game Time picks to find tickets for an upcoming game. Browsing through the deals was a breeze, and I found great value for all kinds of seats around the venue. The super deal in particular stood out as best value for the event. I love that I could see the seat views before buying and that the app shows the total cost upfront with no surprise fees at checkout. Plus, the on time ticket delivery and lowest price guaranteed gave me complete peace of mind. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account or redeem code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Maryland football actually adds, I think, the biggest portal ad so far. The Terps pick up a humongous offensive line of commitment with the commitment of Rachel Perry. I think Perry is exactly what the Terps need. And this isn't like an offensive line commit that's he's mediocre. No, this kid is legit. This kid had plenty of opportunities to go really wherever he wanted. He's from Central Connecticut State, and he was one of the most sought after offensive linemen in the portal. He's an offensive tackle, and I think this is exactly what Maryland needed on the offensive line. And I think our offensive line, I want to touch on this tomorrow, so I'm not going to do too much about it, but I think it should be so much better next year. I think as an opportunity to really, I'm not going to say a top unit in the Big Ten, but just to improve drastically from where we were last year. We get a lot of the guys back in terms of some of the guys that started last year, like Andre Roy, like Alao Ba, like Alan Heron, a lot of the younger guys as well, like Isaiah Wright should be coming back from injury. We get some of the younger guys like Therese Davis, Ryan Howerton, Michael Hershey. And then we also add in a couple of transfers. And of course, this kid, Perry, that I'm talking about from Central Connecticut. And then you also get the kid, James from Akron. So it's going to be really interesting to kind of see how the Terps look next season in terms of their offensive line play. I think it can be much better. I think it should be much improved. And in adding a top portal piece, like this kid was ranked as one of the top offensive linemen. I think number 2 offensive lineman left in the portal. And so everywhere wanted this kid. Florida State picked Maryland over schools like Florida State, Ohio State, who's in the national championship, Pitt, Syracuse, who had a really good year last year, were some of his other offers. And so he was really able to pick Maryland over some legit opponents. And then, yeah, he's the number 7 available transfer in the portal right now, which is really big time for Maryland football. And the reason this is huge is because last year our offensive line held us back. It held us back. I thought our offense could be really explosive, really good. And instead it was a mediocre offense for a lot of the year. Sometimes it would look cool. Sometimes it would look explosive. Sometimes Billy Edwards would look really good. Sometimes we would see Nolan Ray and Roman Hemby have flashes of what they could be. But a lot of the times it was, oh, our quarterback's getting hit. Oh, they can't run block. Oh, they can't pass protect. Oh, we can't get anything going because it's instant pressure. There's no time. The quarterback clearly doesn't feel good in the pocket. For a large majority of the year, that was kind of the deal. And so bring in this tackle, Perry, that is supposed to be really good. The scouting report is that he's going to be a Big Ten starter and a really solid one. Plus all the youth that we have that we felt really good about freshmen playing last year that are going to jump to sophomores, and then as well as some of the guys starters that we get back. This offensive line, it's going to be tough to play on next year. It's going to be a real battle. This isn't just going to be like it's not going to be like, oh, we have our 5 guys with not much depth. Like there should be some depth in this room. And I really do think it should move. I'm going to say for now a mediocre unit in the Big Ten. And I think I haven't really seen Maryland football have a mediocre unit in the Big Ten so far this year. So if it's able to be a mediocre unit, that's more than good enough because there's some really good offensive lines in the Big Ten. So if it's just mediocre, then I think the Terps are going to be in a good spot. And I think that's where we want to be is a mediocre unit in the Big Ten. Being a high-level offensive line unit in the Big Ten is tough. And then most importantly, what it does for Malik Washington, I think is very is probably the most important thing. It's looking more and more like he's in line to possibly start next year, which I have mixed feelings about. You kind of go back and forth about. You just hope he's ready, but adding in another portal offensive lineman that you feel really good about ensures that hopefully a guy that is ranked. This is what I was talking about with Mike Locksley. We get offensive linemen in the portal, but we don't get splash offensive linemen in the portal. And this is a splash guy. And getting a guy like this really should help Malik Washington at the tackle spot, whether it's left or right or whatever. However, Locksley puts it together. I really do think that Malik Washington's walking into one of the better offensive line Maryland has had in the last 4 or 5 years. And I really think that should help him play at a high level and help him get through some of those freshman worries because a lot of Maryland quarterbacks, Billy Edwards last year, his first year starting, didn't have a solid group. And if Malik Washington can start off his career right and start off well and get some momentum behind this program, then that's a really big thing. And then you also forget when we bring in one of the top offensive linemen in the country in the 2025 class in Jalen Gilchrist. So this offensive line has a future. Mike Locksley looks like he did a lot to address it. We'll see how it comes together. We'll see if it's coached properly. We'll see if it actually connects well. We'll see how it plays. But I'm really excited about the offensive line next year. We're going to talk about it more tomorrow. So make sure you guys stick around, look out for the episode tomorrow. But I'm really excited about Maryland's offensive line and what it can be. Maryland basketball, who impressed against Minnesota and UCLA? I'll talk about that next. After the holiday hustle, there's nothing like giving your home a little TLC. I always find that cleaning and refreshing my space helps me get back into a routine. Whether you're tidying up, clearing out, or just want to give your space a new look to start the year, WayFair has everything you need, all within your budget. I'm currently looking for furniture, and there's a huge selection. It makes it easy to find pieces that fit my style and budget. That's my favorite part. The free and hassle-free delivery, and even for the larger items. Wayfair's site was so easy to navigate, and I found everything I needed in no time. There's something for every style in every home, no matter your space or your budget. WayFair makes it easy to tackle your new year home goals with endless inspiration for every space. And it also can help in a time crunch. Was the delivery fast and free and hassle free? Yes, it absolutely was. So give your home the refresh it needs with Wayfair. Head to wayfair.com right now. That's WayFair.com. Wayfair. Every style, every home. So I thought a couple of Maryland players actually had really have had really good games in the last couple, and especially two guys that I thought struggled on the road trip, didn't have their best ball on the road trip, really have started to turn it on, and started to play like we've needed them to. And the first guy is Derek Queen. Derek Queen had a really good game against Minnesota last night with 27 points, led our team. It was actually his career high. Almost dropped 30 points, shot 10 of 15 from the field in 36 minutes of play. So 7 of 8 from the free throw line. There's not much to say. He just had a really good Derek Queen game against a Minnesota team, and it's really the difference. If Derek Queen doesn't play as well, if he drops only 20 and doesn't shoot as well, we struggle maybe to beat Minnesota in that game. And I really talked about that. Derek Queen's the queen, not the queen. Derek Queen is the key to us winning these games, and he looked like he was ready to go. He looked like he was ready to rebound from the road trip, and he had a solid game against UCLA too, but this was one of his better games of the year. We've seen him put together games like this where he's the best player on the court, and last night I thought he was clearly the best player on the court, and if he continues to play like this, I feel really good about this Maryland team. And then I think another guy is Jacoby Gillespie has started to find his rhythm again. It was a little concerning. I think people kind of jumped ship a little too fast on him. I was reading stuff on Twitter that was like, he's too small of a guard and all this stuff. And I was like, he had one bad game, 2 bad games. And to me, I didn't really understand it because I was like, I still think he's really good. I still think he can be an elite guard in the Big Ten. Not good. I think he'd be an elite guard. And he's proven that. He's our main shot creator. He's our main playmaker. And he had a really good game against Minnesota with 5 rebounds, 7 assists, a steal, and 15 points. So overall, he stuffed the stat sheet, shot 2 of 5 from the 3-point line, looked really solid for the Terps. And I really like the way Jacoby Gillespie has played. And then, of course, you got to talk about his 30-point game against UCLA. Was his best offensive game, but he can be as good as really any guard on our team. He's that good. The way he handles the ball, the way he can shoot, the way he can get to the rim. Jacoby Gillespie is really good. And I think that the Washington game threw him off a little bit, and then he was up and down in the Oregon game. But let's not forget, this kid's legit. This kid is everything he needs. And Rodney Rice, he's been one of the more impressive guys this season. 21 for Rodney Rice, our second leading scorer on the game. He just can score. He's a scorer. It really works well. Gillespie's a really good playmaker. Rodney Rice score. Julian Reese is your big, can block a lot of shots. Had 2 blocks on the game. It's gonna stuff the going to get a lot of rebounds, does stuff at the rim. Derek Queen's your all-around big, can shoot the mid-range, do a lot of different things. And then Rodney Rice, just pure score. It works. 21 points, only 1 turnover, 2 assists, shot 2 of 7 from the 3-point line. And even without shooting well from the 3-point line, he still was able to get to the rim, 9 of 10 from the free throw line, which I thought was important, 5 of 10 from the field. I really like the way Rodney Rice is playing, and he's really elevated this lineup to a legit spot in the Big Ten, and he's doing some really good things. The way he shoots the ball, the way he's playing is really impressive for the Terps. And if he can continue to do what he's doing, he's in line to have a really good year and really finish the way that he wants to. That's all we have for today. Thank you for listening to Locked On Terps. Make sure you like and subscribe. We're here every day talking Maryland football and basketball. So thank you for listening to Locked On Terps.